So, there's been a lot of questions being asked in the media lately. No one asked me this question specifically, but I've seen it a lot on social media and stuff like that. The question is, where are all the old autistic people? You can find a lot of autistic people that are diagnosed ASD1. There are some famous people like Dan Aykroyd and Anthony Hopkins. Prior to 2013, the diagnosis was usually called Asperger's. For a variety of reasons, that label's been dropped and it was folded into autism spectrum disorder, and they say it's level 1. As far as people diagnosed ASD3 that are older, they do exist, but as you can understand, they're pretty old now, which means their parents would be much older and can no longer take care of them, so they would be in institutions of some sort, nursing homes, group homes, things like that. You don't see them as much in public because they need a lot of care. But there are also reasons why there are less people diagnosed ASD3 who are older. Prior to 1980, autism was a form of schizophrenia. It was not its own diagnosis. Many of the people, if they were diagnosed what we would now call ASD3 prior to 1980, would have just been diagnosed schizophrenic. Since many of these people do not have the ability to advocate for themselves, they will not necessarily seek to update their diagnosis. Like me personally, I would have never been diagnosed if I had not wanted the question settled in my own mind. And we also have to consider that people going back throughout history, when they would have this sort of issue, they were mostly just considered demon-possessed, you know? Many people that we now would say have autism spectrum disorder level 3 would have been lobotomized or chained to a bed in an institution, or, just chained up in the attic, like the family would have the crazy daughter in the attic sort of thing. And people with ASD1 back then, they would have been considered the eccentric weirdos. So these are all basically the reasons why there were less diagnoses back then. I don't want to entirely throw out the idea that there could be environmental factors, especially in utero. I'm not a scientist, so I can't say one way. I can't look at the data and say one way or another. But I also know that a lot of the people that are talking about it and the highest levels of government on TV these days, they also are not scientists, and they also don't know what they're talking about. All I can say, I know that there are a couple people in my family who have been giving a formal diagnosis also. This was done at different institutions, different teams of doctors, different states, different time periods. So that leads me to think that there's a genetic component to it. But I'm not a scientist, so I don't know. Aside from the people in my family with the formal diagnosis, there are a couple people who are savants, who were childhood savants in art and music and stuff like that. None of that's proof that it's genetic, just what I can see from my own family. So I don't really have any definitive answers about this, but those are my thoughts on the current public discourse around autism.